Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Passion and Purpose podcast. I'm so excited because today I'm joined by my favorite person and my incredible wife, Shelley Giglio. We're talking all about mental health because this is Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental health isn't just a topic Shelley and I care about. It's a big part of our personal story, and I'm grateful to have her here to share her wisdom, both around supporting those who are struggling and her own mental health journey. It's going to be an amazing conversation. I'm so excited about this episode today. I'm here with my favorite person, and we're going to be talking about mental health because this month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so it's been so great, and I hope you've enjoyed it if you've gotten to walk through these few podcasts in this season. Just different angles of talking about mental health awareness, and how to take practical steps to stay healthy. And you know, I've talked a lot about my journey with mental health and my struggle with anxiety, depression, but it really isn't my story, it's our story. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But I'd like to welcome a pretty phenomenal person to the Passion and Purpose podcast. I want to give just a little introduction. I did this at a Grove night sometime back in the past, but people are like, what does Shelley do? In fact, someone asked me yesterday, I was in another city meeting a bunch of new people, are like, tell me, what does Shelley do? And I was like, what does Shelley not do? But Shelley, people don't know, has a business degree, marketing degree from the Baylor Business School. So she's legit right out of the gate. Became like the COO of the largest independent insurance agency in Central Texas, out of Baylor. Doing phenomenal things, a woman in a man's world. I was observing that from the outside and just coming up through the ranks. Got an insurance license, got your broker's license, got all kinds of other licenses. I think you could trade stocks and bonds and do all kinds of things. And then you move from that into the largest Egyptian Arabian horse farm.
Vice versa.
Started at the horse farm.
Yep.
There was a day, don't want to get into it right now, when there was a real benefit to owning Egyptian Arabian horses, and the benefit went away, and then the whole industry went away. But you worked at this farm that had 10, 15, $20 million horses at it. Huge thing, went bankrupt. You were the last employee there. The bank came in, took over the thing. Everybody else is gone, but no, we're going to keep her till the very last day. You helped shut that thing down. Did some amazing things to help the people that owned it. Then you went to the insurance thing. You're doing amazing there. You're going up through the ranks. You're running the show, really. And then you quit all that and came to work for Choice Bible Study at Baylor University.
It's a good choice.
Because we knew we needed to be in the same place every day. I was starting to travel around all over. You had a career going crazy. But that got us into Choice, got us into Passion ultimately. But you have started The Grove, which is a community for women, through Passion City Church, which has had a phenomenal impact on people around the world. You started running Six Steps Records from day one, 25 years ago, and have managed artists and built an incredible wave of impact church around the world. I got a text yesterday from a very, very well-known worship leader in the world, and he was just saying, you know, thanks for this and this and this. I'm just looking back on these years, and it reminded me of your commitment to people, not really to selling records. And that's the least of it. You are, I'm just going to keep going. You're a confidant and a counselor to people all around the world. Call you. My life, a lot of it is sitting on your half of the phone calls with these people who, in all situations of life, the highs, the lows, crisis, good times, bad times, big decisions, small decisions, family things, job things, ministry things, they call you. And they turn to you because you're the wisest person all of us know. And I left out a bunch of stuff, but your future author.
Passion, small thing called Passion
We started something together called Passion,
Yeah.
and you've carried that, like most things that we've started, so well. I'm a starter. Shelley's a finisher. Thank you, Lord. It's worked out good. And a bunch of other stuff in between. And you're a soon-to-be author. So our next podcast, your book will be sitting right here, not my book. And I'm so excited about that day. You can tell us a little bit about it today in this podcast, just kind of when we can expect that and kind of what the working title is right now.
Be asking God. He'll let us know.
It'll be exciting. And the people want it. People, do you want it? The people
All right.
want Shelley's black and white wisdom from your Instagram page. They want that in book form so that they can dive in. Please welcome to the Passion and Purpose podcast, Shelley Giglio.
Oh, nice to be here. That's a giant introduction. I hope I can
It probably
live up.
was maybe the whole podcast, but you know what? You deserve it.
Well, thank you very much. Happy to be here. Glad to talk about mental health. I think we can never talk about it enough, honestly, and certainly in honest ways that are helpful to people. So I'm honored to get to do that.
Before we dive into that, I like to ask people, you know this, what is your passion and purpose? This is the Passion and Purpose podcast. So for Shelley Giglio, when you're waking up in the morning, what is the passion that moves you, and what is the purpose that it moves you towards?
Well, my passion is definitely to know God, and I think to make him known to people on earth. And I pray that everything I touch has that as its purpose, and that I don't do a lot of frivolous things that are short-term, earthly things that won't last into eternity, but that I'm always trying to make an impact with whatever is in my hands that will go across into eternity, and for God. So that's definitely my passion. My purpose every day, I think, is to become the person that God's intended me to be. And that's a discovery for all of us. I'm 60 now and
Wow.
certainly have been on the journey a long time, but I still don't know exactly what God's unfolding every day. And so it's a whole journey of a lifetime to figure out exactly what you were created for, gifted for, and called to. And I'm still discovering that every day. So I want to do that for myself, but I also, I think, spend a lot of energy, and you mentioned some of this, I guess, in your introduction, but of trying to help other people do the same.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be the person that arrives into eternity going, I got my purpose and I got my destiny and I know what I was supposed to be about on earth. But I also want to help other people discover, what are they gifted at? What are they called to do? How can I help them discover what some of those things are, and to be obedient in the process of saying yes to those things? So it's kind of two-pronged, I think.
Yeah.
Myself, certainly, we're all responsible for our own obedience, but I also want to help other people take good steps as well.
Yeah, that's the thing about you. I think that, now people want you to be on stage. They want to hear you talk. They want to see you. But forever, your motto was one speaker per family. And people would say, Shelley, we want you to do whatever. And you'd be like, no, I'm one speaker per family. We got our speaker in our family already. And what God had for me put me in a lot of places that were visible. But you are always that steady, consistent rock. And you were content to be behind all of it. Not behind the scenes necessarily, but just not the face. And that wasn't just about things that you and I were called to, like passion. But you do that for so many people to say to them, hey, here's what you can do. Here's what God has for you. Let me help you. And the number of people you've helped who are visible that no one knows, oh my gosh, there's somebody behind the scenes that's really been a big part of that. I think for me, that's why we want the book, because that's what has forged all of this goodness that is in you. Because, you see people all the time trying to grab the stuff, and you never were that person. You were always like, I just want to show up for people and build into people. And that's the gold that, that's the priceless thing that the kingdom is really built on. That's what the kingdom is all about. It is not about people getting headlines. It's about people showing up and being faithful. And, I was thinking back to when we met. You were a college student. I was a grad student. And then we were on the same campus together for a minute, started this Bible study and an apartment clubhouse together, you and a handful of your friends, and just saw that thing really make a big impact on a campus, and not knowing that we were going to be doing something loving and serving 18 to 25-year-olds for our whole lifetime. But you said just a minute ago, I'm 60, and I'm still trying to discover exactly what it is every day that God wants me to be and do. And I think a lot of people hearing this are like, oh, wow, I thought by the time you're 60, you'd kind of figured out all the stuff by then, and you knew what it was all about. And maybe that's refreshing, or maybe that's discouraging for someone that's 20 listening to this today going, wow, when you're 60, you're still waking up going, okay, Lord, what is it today?
Yeah, there's a lot of God, and I don't think as humans we can comprehend that. I want to understand and know his heart and mind for my life and in general. What is he doing on earth that I can
Yeah.
join my life to? But I feel like, people want to sort of quantitate what they're willing to do. So God should have downloaded to me by the time I'm 30 all the plans, and I just have never found God to do that with me that way. And it may just be that he can't trust me with the plans and he's got to hold on to them a little longer. Or it could be that actually walking with him is the goal.
That's it. Yeah.
And wherever he's going, I get to go with him to whatever that place is. And as I'm walking and in relationship with him, I'm discovering things about me. I don't ever want to stop learning about myself. I don't ever want to get to the point where I think, well, I've arrived and I understand myself and I understand what I'm gifted and called to, and I've got it all down pat. I think that's the day you probably die. It's inside, whether you live on outside or not. And I don't want to die in that lack of discovery. I want to continue to walk with God in a way that he is uncovering and helping identify in me things that I didn't even know were there. And I certainly didn't know I was gifted or called to do them. So I think that's the lifetime that we all really aspire to. I think we get to be my age, your age, and we figure out we're kind of tired. And it is a long journey sometimes if we do live that long. But man, I don't want to die and not discover more of God than what he wanted me to know. I want to know whatever it is. And that requires, I think, a daily obedience to show up, be available, walk with him, be close to him, lean into him, and then just see where he's going.
We've told this story a lot, but I love it. And I just was thinking about it while you were talking about your passion. I want to know God. I was a seminary student in Texas, and at the last second, I got this opportunity to become a summer college intern at a church in Houston. I was in Fort Worth. I mean, the last second, this girl that was going to be the high school intern said, hey, the person doing this backed out. There's an opening and it starts in 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't know. I've driven through Houston once in my life at that point. But anyway, I went down with her that weekend to check things out, ended up applying, getting the internship. I show up and I'm staying at the Hammer's house because I'm living with families, weeks at a time across the summer, and I'm at the Hammer's house. I don't know them. They don't know me. We're sitting in the den. It's awkward. We're just like, hey, I'm living at your house. We don't know each other. And the doorbell rings, and Mrs. Hammer goes to the door, and there's commotion on the front porch, and she said, Louie, there are people here to see you. And I was like, oh, okay. Didn't know people knew I was here. And in comes you and about 10,
probably 8 of us,
8 college students. Yeah. And their stairway, I'll never forget it, goes up to the second floor, and you all just sat on the staircase. And they said, hey, man, we kind of are some of the leaders here in the college ministry. We wanted to come by and say hi, meet you, and really got down pretty quickly. And I think it was you saying, look, we just need to let you know, we don't care about the ski trips. We don't care about the lake. We don't care about the pizza, the party, the whatever. Do you know anything about our identity in Christ? And I was like, I actually do. And that has revolutionized my life in the last 4 years. Mm. And you said, well, we've been in a Bible study at Baylor, and we've been learning about our identity in Christ, and we are on fire, and we want to go deeper, and we want to know God, and we wanted to know if you want to know God. And you basically were there just checking me out. I think you guys would have fired me that night if I was, some shallow Christian. And I remember all y'all got up and walked out, and I'm like, what have I gotten into? This is the greatest thing ever. And it really was one of the best summers, maybe the best summer of our lives. It was the summer I met you, so it's hard to top that. But, man, that was such a moment. And that's like the first, you had seen me, I think, earlier at something at church, but that was kind of like the first moment. And I was like, this girl is got a hunger for God.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always had it. I don't really know why exactly. I grew up in a pretty normal household, and my parents were believers in Jesus, and we were church-going people. But I was never satisfied with just the normal. And early on figured if God was knowable and he was saying to me, you can know me and walk with me, then I was like, again, I'll take you up on that. That seems like a worthwhile adventure. And so I think as I've just leaned into God in that particular summer, we had a Bible study or really a Sunday school class is what it was. And we had an incredible teacher. He was a professor at Baylor, and he was very, very articulate about what it meant to know who we are in Christ and how that would free us to live differently if we really understood what Christ thought about us. And I think as a lot of church-going kids were all of a sudden in this community together learning this, it was truly revolutionizing our lives. And so certainly we didn't mind going and having pizza parties at the lake as much as we just wanted to make sure that the summer wasn't just full of that. And so many times, I think in youth ministry or college ministry, we sell kids so short of what their potential is. And we tell them it's okay to just have friends that love Jesus and kind of walk alongside them and just enjoy. And man, we were like, we want to know God. And that seems like our first priority. And it's awesome to have friends that also want to do that and to go to the lake with them. And we ski all the time and we're fun people. But if this is an opportunity and you as our leader can teach us, that's what we want. So we were pressing you a little bit, and my friends were equally as deep as me and wanting to do the same. So it was a good crew.
I was only a few years away, and we're going to come to mental health in just a second, from Mount Rainier. That was midway through college for me. It's just a couple years in the back, and I really had only started teaching on it, what I've taught now for all these years, decades now. But one of the Tuesday nights, first Tuesday nights,
I think it was the very first one,
because I did something from a national park, I think, every week, tied in something around the character of God, and did the whole talk on knowing God versus knowing about God. And I remember after that, you and I talking, and our relationship kind of got momentum pretty fast. But I remember us talking after that, and just how lit up you were to know God, and how lit up I was to know God. And it was just such a amazing start to a really great journey.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jamie. Is that
Jamie was the teacher.
I'm reaching for Jamie's last name right now. Jamie, I'm so sorry. Oh,
Jamie's probably still around. He wasn't that much older than me at the time. He was probably in his 30s maybe, and I was 18.
Yeah, I'd come to Waco if I wasn't out speaking at some youth revival or lock-in somewhere. I would be in Waco on a weekend because we dated long distance for 2 years when I was still in seminary. And I'm sleeping on some guy's floor or some couch at some guy's house and getting up, and we're going to church on Sunday, though, at Highland, and going to this college Sunday school class that had hundreds of people crammed in this room, people sitting on the floor, 2 people on a chair, just the hunger. And Jamie was such a phenomenal teacher and incredible person, and all those seeds he's sowed in you and in me and in so many people are still bearing fruit to this day. We didn't talk a lot about mental health at our household until 2008, and then we started talking about a lot. I think you knew that I wasn't mentally healthy the whole time, but and you never brought it up.
We don't have to go back to all of that, really.
I was a very vivacious, vision casting, on person when I was visible to people, but you knew me as an introvert and kind of a loner, and probably somebody struggling with depression in more ways than I knew. Yeah. But then we went to dinner that night, and in the middle of the night, we went back to the same restaurant, interestingly, a few weeks ago, and sat in the booth next to the booth that we went to dinner at that night. And we went home. I woke up in the middle of the night, thought I was dying, got up, went to work the next day, still thought I was dying, ended up going to the doctor, going to the cardiologist, going to this, going to that day, and they were like, you're fine, go home. But then the second night, you walk in, and only people who know you will enjoy this. I'm enjoying it already. You walk in, it's late at night, I'm sitting on the bed. I can't feel my face at all, totally numb. My arm is numb, and my legs are convulsing. And people who've been in this terrible place understand this. And it looked like they had electric cables plugged into them, and they were just doing this. And you walked in the bedroom and you went, stop doing that.
I'm sure I did not say it like that.
What is
I
happening
was
to you?
highly
What is
encouraging
what
you
is
to
hap-
see what control you did have
what
of
is
it.
happening to you? Stop doing that. And I was like, I
Oh,
can't, and I can't feel my face, and
yeah.
my arm is numb, and whatever. And you were like, get in the car. So we were
Yeah.
at the emergency room pretty soon after that, and it started a long, long season of, just real dark time. And there we were, stuck in the middle of it. What was your thinking up to that point about mental health, and how has it shifted since that?
Yeah, I think in that season, I think today's day, mental health is an ongoing discussion, and it's everywhere. There are articles written about it all day long. There are people talking about it. There are books out about mental health and the challenges and the ways that people have navigated. You've done several interviews with people already related to mental health. So it's a very common discussion these days. But in 2008, it wasn't very common. And certainly in the church, I didn't remember anyone really talking about
Yeah.
the challenges of mental health, or even the words anxiety, depression were not mentioned much. And it wasn't, I don't know that it was that we didn't want that to happen. Certainly we were leaders. We didn't have a church at that point, but we were leaders. And I don't think there was anybody saying, we don't want anyone talking about this. It was just more of, hadn't been discussed at that level. And it wasn't that people weren't struggling, because we know that if you're human, there's going to be a struggle. And so it's been going on for generations, right? But for whatever reason, it wasn't getting addressed at the level that it is now. And so when it was happening to you, I didn't have several books to read, and I didn't have articles to look up, and I didn't have people to really talk to.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Louie's legs are convulsing and out of control. I'm going to call my friend who I know her husband had whatever.
Right.
There weren't any of those people around our life, and we didn't really have people talking about it at that level. So it was challenging to have to figure it out as we went. I'm a girl who likes the discovery of that. And so as much as I was fearful for you, I was also in a lane that I had never been in before, that I was now the wife of a guy who was in deep struggle. And I was going to the best of my ability, try to figure out how to be helpful and not harmful. I know I said to you, stop doing that. I'm sure I did that multiple times. That probably wasn't a one-time event. But in general, I wanted to be helpful and to figure out what can we do and what avenues are there to take to figure out how for you to be treated. And for us, it was a long journey. It took a lot of different doctors. It took a lot of different input for us to discern and figure out what the right path for you was. And eventually, and we've told this story before, there was a doctor who wasn't a specialist in anxiety or depression, who really wasn't even in the field of that kind of medicine, who ended up telling you, this is sort of how this is going to go. This is how you need to treat it. And this is what you can expect to happen over a prolonged period of time. This is the way your route is going to feel. And that person helped us the most, because they were willing to help us understand really what we were in and how it wasn't going to change overnight, and you weren't going to wake up a week from now and be fine. It was going to take a process.
Yeah.
And that really helped us a lot. So I feel like, I like that it's a conversation now, and that people can talk about it within the church, and certainly in the world. It's being discussed at every level. What I don't like about it is that I feel like sometimes that becomes the point.
Wow.
And that anxiety, that word has just become so prevalent and such a crutch for so many things in our life that aren't going well. It's hard. It's difficult. I have so much anxiety. I'm going through a tough season. I have so much anxiety.
Yeah,
I
it
had
can
a
become
huge
an
loss in
excuse
my
at
life.
some
It
point.
becomes sort of the focus of our lives. And I feel like there's a way for it to exist in conversation in a healthy way. But it's also really important that it not become what we worship, because we become
Wow.
what we worship, and anxiety can easily become the focus of your whole life if you're not careful.
Yeah, I said in a talk a couple of months ago, the thorn is real, the thorn on the side of that Paul was telling us about, but God gets the glory.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes culture has flipped that around, that God is real, but the thorn gets the glory.
Yeah.
The addiction gets the glory, or
Yeah.
the anxiety, the depression, the whatever is going on. That's the thing that gets talked about. And I think for me, for both of us, for a season there, every conversation I had was, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How's your anxiety? How's your depression? Are you better? And then I would respond with, well, I took this and it helped me. I saw this doctor. The Lord did this. And every conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, anxiety and depression are on the throne. And they're real. And I don't want to minimize them. It almost took me out. But they're not on the throne.
Amen.
And so to be able to navigate that, it was a journey for us. I want to give a shout out, and I don't want to say who it was necessarily, but you had a herniated disc.
Not that was important at the time, but yes,
No,
I was
it was
in a
real
lot
important
of
at
pain.
the time. Happened in a hotel in Sydney, Australia, after
Yeah.
the last World Tour event, and you were in the shower, and I was still asleep in the bed, and you screamed bloody murder, and then I couldn't get you up out of the shower. And we had to stay in Sydney for days because you couldn't move. And then finally we had to get on an airplane and fly all the way home. You went to see a doctor about your back, and we met this guy. Well, he is the guy who actually shepherded me through this whole process. And he was an emergency room doctor. I think I mentioned this when I was talking to Hannah. And so he had a lot of experience. And his wife had been in the hole I was in.
Yeah.
And he knew about this hole. And he knew that there were some things he could tell me, some things he couldn't tell me, some things that were going to take a week, some things he knew were going to take a couple of months. But he coached me through it. And I'm sorry about your back. I think your back was the last thing that, got to me, because you were in a bad, bad way. And I couldn't do anything for you or to help you. But you talk about having a soft heart and thick skin. And I think maybe one of the last things that, as the moment's coming to this crash, and we don't talk about this, and we're not going to talk about it today. It's something that you and I carry amongst ourselves. But we're planting a church. We have a house church at that time. We've done this world tour 3 months out of 2008. We've been around the world, 17 cities, 16 countries. Life is rolling. But then we got a shot over the bow from somebody.
Yeah.
Like an arrow. And we were like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And we realized that this church path was going to be a battle.
Yeah.
And I think that moment you and I were looking at each other like, good night, what in the world? Nobody's ever shot an arrow at us like that before. And then here we were, just, in a crash. You said, I just wanted to help. You are a helper. You ask me 5 times a day, do you need anything? Can I get you anything? I'm out. Do you need anything? What do you need? That's your makeup. And yet you got this husband over here you can't do a thing for, really, because we don't know what's going on at this point. How frustrating is that?
Yeah, it was hard because I didn't have the trajectory of knowing it was going to take a while. I didn't understand that we couldn't make it to a doctor who could do something that was a little more immediate. And so it went on. And it would have moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, he's up and we're maybe on the road to recovery. And then the next day, no, we're not. We're back in a state that I haven't seen him in before. So there were just so many ups and downs. And as a helper, you want to just, at the very least, you want things to kind of do this, where there's constant improvement and every day is a little bit better than the last one. And by the end, we're going to be fine. And that just wasn't happening. It was very up and down. I was hopeful in moments like, this is it. We're on a better path. You have maybe some medication that feels like it's treating you well. And then we kind of have the bottom drop out again. So it was hard to navigate. And I think for people who are walking beside people in serious, desperate holes, like you've described, that it takes an enormous amount of patience, not just with the person, but with the process.
Wow.
And I wanted to be patient with you and not drive you crazy by trying to help you, but also wanted to be patient, understanding that it was going to take a while for this to be, and you've said many a time, I didn't know I would ever be back on a stage preaching at church every week, or ever be in a situation where I felt like I'm pretty normal. And I think I didn't feel that either. I didn't know if you would ever interact and be the person that you were before this moment.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if that was coming back. I didn't know if you would be okay. I didn't know if this was a constant state for the rest of our life. And I just think people helping you understand that is a good thing, so that then you can say, I do believe, and I prayed so many prayers of belief. God, I know you can heal him. I know that it might take some time, but I'm believing you for it. So I wasn't waning in the way I was trying to help, but I just had to realize that it was going to take a while.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, it's several months journey. That guy had told me, he said, your brain just shut down, and it's going to take a minute. He said something like you're in 35th gear, and you got to get down to first gear, and that's going to take a minute. And it did take some time, but thank God we made it. And that maybe if the only thing someone gets out of this podcast today is that I just believe by the grace of God, if you're listening to this podcast today and you're struggling either as a spouse or a friend or parent or son or daughter of somebody that's in that shape, or if you are the person, that there is light on the other side of it.
That's right.
It might take a little bit longer than you anticipated. Talk about, going back to what I was saying before, I just thought of why I brought up the thick skin, soft heart. I don't know that I definitely did not have thick skin in 2008. And I think it's gotten thicker. I think planning a church and leading a church for 16 years is get your skin a little thicker. But, and that's not saying leading church is terrible. It's not. It's just, you have to have thicker skin as it goes along.
Yes.
But talk about your mental health. You are. People would say about you, I think, what are the 4 characteristics of Shelley Giglio? Wisdom. It's going to come up at the top of the list. Mm-hmm. Just wisdom. You speak wisdom, not just truth. You speak truth also, but you speak wisdom into things. A whole bunch of stuff goes. Everybody talks, and then you talk, and everybody goes, that. And I know you asked for that when you were younger, and God's really graced you with that. But apart from wisdom, you have a sound mind. And what do you do to protect your own mental health?
Yeah, I think some of that, honestly, is hereditary. And I don't understand it fully. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, so I can't speak to that at the level that somebody could. But I think watching life and just being an observer of people, that a lot of what we struggle with, we were handed, either by blood from our parents or certainly by circumstantial proximity to our parents.
Yeah.
And I think for you, as much as you have struggled in seasons that were obvious, and then you've struggled in seasons that were less obvious. People wouldn't have known you were struggling unless they had lived at your house with you, like I do. And I think that came to you because you had a parent that struggled, really 2 parents who struggled. One, your dad in similar ways to you, I think, in his struggle. Very artistic in nature, as you are. I have been assigned the gift in life to work with artists who are very, very special people. But they are not
special people.
I would not say that they're really known to be thick-skinned people.
Not stable, special.
And they're special. They're amazing, and we need them, and they inspire us all greatly. And I love them deeply, and I have a lot of artistic creativity in me as well. And so I understand them in some ways because of who I am. But I just think, in general, some of the things that we end up dealing with in life, we were handed. And we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't take a bad path. We just ended up by being a son or daughter of our parents,
and
receiving
you didn't come from
something.
creativity necessarily. You came from stability.
Yeah,
Your dad got up and went to work at 6 o'clock in the morning every day of his life.
Yeah, 7:25, he left the house.
Ran massive stuff and went from the littlest guy at the company to being the guy at the company. And he never cut a corner.
No.
He never skipped over a step. He never shortchanged anything. He was honest and full of integrity. And if he said he was going to do it, he did it. And if you said you were going to do it, you did it.
Yeah, and I think that's what was modeled for me. So it was natural for me to follow in that path. I don't think all of us get that advantage. And I
Yeah.
understand that. And so we're overcoming challenges we didn't even know we were going to have.
Right.
And that's just reality. And so some of it is that. I think some of it is sensitivity and your desire to please people. And while I've always liked to be liked, I do enjoy being liked. I've really always wanted my goal more to be respected. I would love to hang out with y'all and everybody have a good time, and can be the life of a party, and you know that to be true. And I like that about me, but I don't necessarily live and die by people's opinions of me. I would rather in the long run stay the course, connect to the path, be on whatever God has me on, and get to the end of the road and say, well, I didn't enjoy being around her as much, but I sure do respect that she was able to do something. So I think that's a difference sometimes in the way we perceive how we interact with other people. I think part of the reason that the flaming arrow that you described coming our way was so painful to you is that you cared so deeply about what those people thought. And
sure.
because you cared so deeply about what they thought, when they didn't like something you did or the way you were going about it, it was very harmful to you. Whereas to me, it was more like, I don't like that they don't like it, but I'm okay. I'll be all right. I can keep going past that. And so it just depends on kind of how you're made as to how that affects you. But I think for you, it was creating that thicker skin took a long period of time.
Yeah, I've said this so many times, and even the whole process of going through this and then talking about it, which I didn't want to. My first plan was I'm back. We were at Passion Camp in Florida. Maybe there wasn't a Passion Camp then. We were at a camp, must have been Student Life Camp in Florida that next summer. So all that happened in October. And here we are sometime July, and we're at camp, and I had gone down already for a day, and then you came down, and then I realized, like, on the Wednesday, and I'm just trying to be vulnerable for people that don't want us to gloss over stuff. I realized on, like, the Wednesday that I hadn't taken my antidepressant medicine since I got there. And I was like, and the guy had told me, I said, how long do I need to take this? He said, until you forget to take it. And I went, oh, my word, today is the day. I've forgotten to take it. I didn't maybe stop. I think I might have started taking it again the next day. But it was, it's that process that we get into. And I think once I kind of started coming out on the back end of it, I was like, I'm not talking about this. We're moving on. And then the Lord was like, no, you're going to talk about it. And Chris and I went on tour to basketball arenas around America, 10,000 people a night, and I talked about it.
Yeah.
And people's mouths dropped.
Yeah.
They were just like, you're on a platform talking about being depressed and falling in a hole. No one's ever done that before.
Yeah, part of it was that no one had ever done it before, and part of it was that no one would have ever thought you would have been that guy.
Yeah.
It's like we held you in a different esteem than everyone else. Like, all of us are down here struggling, but then there's Louie, he just walks with God and he's like other. And the reason I know that people think like that is because I live with you and I see them at dinner every night, and they literally fall all over themselves when they meet you. And they, so I know how people feel that you would never be the guy who would have that kind of struggle. And I think the reality and what we could help people understand, if it's anything today, is that we are all susceptible to every single thing. No one is an exception, and no pastor or person who you admire is any different than you. We are, every 100%. One of us, made of dust.
Yeah.
God has formed us together and created us in a way that we can be sustaining life and giving life to other people, but we're not without one step away from all the time harm, danger, difficulty, struggle. So I think, if anything, just know you're not weird. If that's your current state, you're not spiritual, and you're not
helpful.
A good person. You're a person who struggles just like everyone else. And I think the person who talks about it the best is Catherine Wolfe, because she always says, I've heard her say it a million times, my struggle is evident. I'm in a wheelchair. And so you can tell my face is paralyzed. I can't swallow very well. I don't eat food with people very much because it's embarrassing. I drop it all down my shirt. It's hard for me to navigate, and then I have to get in a wheelchair and go out. So it's obvious those are my setbacks. Everyone else has the same wheelchairs in some form. They might not be as visible,
Yeah.
but they're inside of us, and we have all these broken places that are discombobulated in us and still being worked out, and we all have them. So I don't know why I'm saying that, except that I guess I just want people to realize that everyone can have a struggle, and it's part of being human. But God does want to restore and put us back together in really healthy, beautiful ways. And it takes doctors to do that.
Yeah.
It takes time. Mm-hmm. It takes effort on our part to lean into those places so that we can be healed, whether that's through counseling or whatever. There's just steps we can take, but we have to know ultimately that God has to do the healing.
Yeah. And God does the healing. And, people say, well, we don't need to lean on doctors and this and counselors and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we're not leaning on any of that. God is using that. God created those doctors.
Yeah.
God created those resources, and he's using those things to heal us. He can heal in a multitude of ways.
Yeah. And I ask him many times to heal you without anything. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that it wasn't being asked. Because I was like, God, you can heal him while we go to sleep tonight. I'm going to go to sleep. He's probably not going to sleep. Heal him while he's laying there. So it wasn't that it wasn't being asked, and it wasn't that he doesn't do that, because he does for people. And there are a million stories that people could tell today of the way he healed them. Mm-hmm. And it didn't happen because of any kind of medicine or doctor path or anything else. He just healed them.
Right.
And I believe that. I still believe he does that on the regular. That's a normal thing. But I also know that at times it takes other things. And for you, when people tell me, well, medicine shouldn't have been used and you should have done a different thing, I know personally with your case that if you hadn't had the medication you had had, we would probably not be sitting here today. Yeah. Certainly not having this conversation about mental health, because you would not be in any condition to be able to have that. So thank you, God, that every bit of the arsenal is in his hand and that he can use it accordingly.
Yeah, that night we went to the hospital, I was one of the emergency room was jammed, and it was like midnight, and I walked in and I was like, oh man. And I just walked up to the lady and said, I'm 50.
No, you were
40. No, I was 50.
Yeah, you were. I
was 50.
Maybe close to it. Yeah.
No, I was 50 years old.
Okay.
And I said, I'm 50. I can't feel my face, and my legs are convulsing, and I can't feel my arm. And she was just like, come with me.
Yeah.
And they took my blood pressure, and I remember just going, oh, my word. It was like 190
really
over
high.
140. Yeah. And
it was dangerous.
Pretty soon they pumped something in this IV, and I felt wonderful. I was really grateful for whatever that was that went in there. But that didn't last for very long. And I wanted to just add this real fast, too. I started taking this antidepressant, and people would ask me, how are you doing? I said, I'm doing a little bit better. They're like, I'm taking this antidepressant. They said, what are you taking? And I would tell them. And they went, oh, man, that is amazing. My wife takes that. And I'd be like, really? And 4 days later, what are you doing? I'm taking this thing. What is it? This. Oh, that's so great. My daughter takes that. And I went, I honestly had no idea before 2008 how many people in my world were taking some medication every day to try to manage life. And it really gave me a lot more empathy for people in a space. And I know there are people listening to this, and I'm like, I've heard all these conversations about anxiety and depression and worry and blah, 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 blah. I don't deal with that. I just get up in the morning, go to my workout, go to my job, I crush and kill, and then I go home, and great. I applaud you. I really do. I wish you the best. But I also want to help you grow empathy for people around you, because they're not weak. I wouldn't consider myself necessarily a weak person in 2008. There's nothing wrong with the person that's in the cubicle next to you that's struggling with depression.
That's right.
And I think empathy is a good thing.
I do too.
Thank you so much, Shelley, for being on part 1 of the Passion and Purpose podcast with Shelley Giglio. We'll see you next time for part 2. Thank you so much for joining us for part 1 of our conversation with Shelley. This conversation was so good, we had to turn it into 2 episodes. We'll see you in part 2.